Um, as promised, I was going to do a video on the POI selection. Um, Obviously, Sam done a Zoom about this the other day, but I understand that a few people might have been a bit overwhelmed with the information. So I'm just going to try and strip it back a little bit and make it um, a bit more simple. So when you do go and watch that Zoom call again, you might have a bit of a better understanding and you can follow it along a bit easier. So, like I say, it's gonna be not gonna be a long video, it's gonna be pretty short, but I'm just gonna sort of get to the point. So, first of all, let's look at what a bearish and bullish engulfing candle is, right, and how we look at it. Now, essentially all it is, it's if you're looking at a bearish engulfing, you're looking at the buy to sell candle. And for it to be for us a valid engulfing candle, then it has to take the low of the last buy candle, right? Okay, so that's essentially why it's called an engulfing candle, because it engulfs the candle. Now, for us, whatever happens above is irrelevant. You know, what's important to us is the fact that it takes the low of the buy candle. Now, obviously, this is valid, and like I said, what happens up here irrelevant. But the body of the sell candle has to close lower than the previous buy candle, okay? And whether that's the wick or just the whole candle. So this down here is invalid because although we do come below it, we don't close below it. The body closes above. Okay, so it's invalid. And you know, same thing for the other side. It's the sell candle. Obviously, now we want to be closing above the sell candle. Again, anything down below it, whether there's, you know, there could be a massive wick there, small wick there, that's irrelevant. How we look at it is it has to engulf the direction that we want to be going. Okay, so again here, invalid. Let's have a little look at some charts and just some examples, right? If we look over to the left hand side here where my mouse is, okay, we have the buy to sell, perfect, engulfs, close below. So that's valid, lovely. Right, again, another example down here. We have the bullish engulfing. Okay, as we see, this bit down here is irrelevant, it's what's above. So it closes above. So again, valid, perfect. Obviously, we're not looking at what it's reacting from now. We're just having an example of what one looks like. Now over here where I've got this box, right, we have the buy candle, buy to sell. This is invalid. Although the body closes below that body, it doesn't actually engulf the whole candle because it doesn't come below this wick. Right, now hopefully everyone now understands that, and moving forward we can, you know, we're all on the same page. Now going through the list that we got, the flow chart, I'm just going to go on to the next question. I'm not going to keep flicking through, so maybe if you get that in front of you it might be a bit easier to follow. So the next thing on there is, does the POI break structure? Right, okay. So again, I've sort of just done a little diagram to make it a bit more clear. Now we want to see in, you know, this bearish situation that the push comes and breaks some form of demand or low. But this just, you know, the reason for that is it just shows us that there's enough, you know, sellers to take out the demand. This is, if this is going to come back and be mitigated, this is where, you know, the push has started from. So they're going to come and get more orders. So like I say, we want to see a low taken out, some sort of break in structure or demand. Bullish scenario, again, We want to be seeing something like this on the chart. Again, it just shows the intent. It takes out some form of supply. Now, this is what we don't want to be seeing. We don't want to be seeing the push. We haven't got enough buying power to take out the recent supply. It just shows us it's weak. You know, there's not enough buying power. So if prices to come back down into this, it's not really something that we want to be seeing or we want to be taking from. Cool. Now, hopefully that's understood. Again, we can have a little look here at some examples. Okay, so here we get a nice engulfing candle. We take out one, two demand and this low. So, there's a lot of selling coming from this candle. And as we can see, when price does come back up to it, we get that push that we want to see. Perfect. Exactly what we want to see. Again, down here, right, we get again a nice bullish engulfing candle. Take out one, two, lots of supply with that push. Price does come back in. Okay, we're in a bearish market anyway, but this is the reaction we get from it. What we want to see. And if we're getting in trades in here, it's 15-minute anyway, we're going to be taking out this high. It's a nice trade. So, okay, that's that cleared up. Of course, the next question is, does the POI have interaction? Okay, so what do we mean by this? Right, we want to see some form of interaction. So in this scenario here, we want to see something interacting with some form of demand. It just shows a change in hands. It's not too complicated. Like I say, this is quite simple, but hopefully, there might be people that see this and it start clicking. And then when obviously you do go and watch Sam's Zoom that he done, things will be a bit more clear. What we don't want to see is something reacting to some sort of imbalance or void or whatever you see, because it doesn't show us anything. There's no interaction there. This will end up likely get run, get used for some inducement, we'll talk about in a minute, but we want to see some form of interaction. I'll show you on a chart what I'm talking about. This is a good example. Obviously price comes up, whether that's wicks just show us that there's some sort of supply there. Okay, we get an interaction, price takes out this high and what we want to see, we get the engulfing candle. Perfect. We get some inducement here and off we go. Perfect, exactly what we want to see. Right now, let's say, we got this imbalance here. If price was to come back down, we get our engulfing candles that we want to see here, but we haven't there's no interaction with anything, and then this is more than likely getting used for inducement for a mitigation lower, where we do see some form of interaction, this is demand, get some interaction with this supply, then we want to see that. So it's just be careful when you see these sort of things. We don't really want to be taking something we can't see what it's interacted with. Cool. I hope that's clear. Now, moving on. Is the POI or area a liquidity grab? Cool. So, what do we want to see? We want to see price come up, take some form of liquidity, whether it looked like equal highs or whether it looked like just, it only has to be a high like this, but we want to see some form of liquidity taken. Okay? If we don't, obviously it's a sign of most likely getting run. If we look over here, we've got, price comes up, there's nothing over here that is taken, it's just space if you want to call it that, then likely this is going to be the liquidity that gets run. Okay, this is just creating that bit of liquidity for a mitigation above. So again, we want to see some form of liquidity taken within the POI. Okay, and again, let's just have a look. This one, for example, up here, it only has to be small, only has to be some form of high that's taken, right? As you see, price comes up, takes the liquidity. We break these demand zones this low. Price comes back up into it, perfect, and we say see you later. Did I have another example for this? I'm not sure I did. So we are going to move on to, does the POI have inducement? Okay, what do we mean by that? Now it's just the other way around really. We want to see obviously what we just talked about, some liquidity taken, and we also want to see some form of liquidity generated before our POI. So some high taken before our POI. You know, we always want to see liquidity taken, always want to see it. And I'll show you a great example in a minute of why. Um, like I say here, if price comes straight down and it's not, you know, it's sell candles, price comes back up, again, this more than likely is getting taken out and being used as the inducement. Let's have a look. Right, this is an example of the other day. Now, it's very important this to see because it happens a lot, and I don't really like to use the word, but it's like people that trade SMC the way that it's sort of taught in other ways, this would be a perfect POI for these people. Why? Because you know you got this great push. But let's look at the POI, right? It takes no liquidity, okay, and there's no liquidity to take beforehand. Look, it's just space. This ends up becoming the liquidity, and price just dies straight through it. Okay, there would have been a bunch of people trying to buy here, but we understand what the POIs are that we want to be taken from. Then we know that this likely is going to be getting taken out. Okay, if we see it come up and we had this, okay, and then price come back down, okay, we'd look at it, but it doesn't. And price doesn't always have to have the inducement here. It can, let's just delete that. It can be created in the push down as well. So, you know, price can come up, we could go at this, we could drop a couple of equals, come back and then go. Okay, that is still inducement for before the POI. Cool. Obviously the last one in there is the POI and premium or discount of something relevant. I'm pretty sure we all know premium and discount. If you don't, there's a video on it. But I'm not going to go into that. That is what I was going to show just before I finish this video. This is a great example up here of inducement before a POI. Okay, so you know we have the whole, you know, push up, like you say, like Sam said before, it engulfs the two candles, so this becomes our whole range. You know, it takes liquidity here, and we also have liquidity created to take inducement into the POI, and we absolutely hit the floor. Cool. Like I said, it's only going to be a short video. Hopefully people can take value from that and then rewatch the zoom that Sam done. Maybe it'll make a bit more sense to you, take more value from the video. But yeah, that sums it up.